Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today's explainer is an absolute deep dive into one of the most mind-bending research documents ever compiled on human consciousness, reality, and the DMT filter hypothesis. We're going to completely unpack this comprehensive report covering the molecule itself, the filter theory, and the crazy concept of interdimensional entities. And don't worry, there's going to be no confusing scientific jargon today, just a direct, structured look at some truly fascinating concepts.
Okay, let's jump straight into a seriously provocative premise. What if your brain isn't actually generating your reality, but actively filtering it out? The report asks us to consider this wild idea that your brain is essentially an evolutionary reducing valve. Basically, its whole purpose is to limit infinite perception just so you can survive, function day to day, and, order a sandwich without going absolutely insane from sensory overload. So let's start with part 1. The molecule and the filter.
To really get how this works, we've got to look at our own biological hardware and a deeply misunderstood molecule, N,N-dimethyltryptamine. DMT isn't just some external substance found out there in hundreds of plants globally. Your own body actually has the natural enzymes to synthesize it right now. It's in your blood, your urine, your spinal fluid. You are, quite literally, a walking chemistry lab.
The philosopher Aldous Huxley hit the nail on the head when he pointed out that the brain's primary job is biological survival, to basically simplify reality into a manageable slice. And the central hypothesis of this document builds on that. It suggests that DMT doesn't just create random hallucinations out of thin air. Rather, it temporarily disables this evolutionary filter. It acts like a chemical key unlocking a door in your consciousness, allowing you to suddenly see what is actually already there.
Think of it kind of like this. Your brain has been running on economy mode your entire life just to save energy and keep you focused on physical survival. DMT is simply the chemical switch that suddenly presses the 4K Ultra HD button. When that filter loosens, you aren't perceiving less of the world, you're perceiving far, far more of it.
Which brings us to part 2, the bizarre consistency problem. Here's where researchers have hit a massive scientific roadblock for decades. Because if this whole experience is just a hallucination, why on earth does everyone see the exact same thing? Think about it. A standard fever dream is just random neurological noise that leads to totally unique, disjointed visions. But when you compare that to a DMT experience, the sheer cross-cultural consistency of geometric architecture and very specific encounters strongly suggest people are tuning into the exact same signal rather than just experiencing random brain misfires. And the really crazy part? Users aren't just seeing abstract, trippy shapes. They are encountering specific, interactive, non-human intelligences, often described as insectoid, elfin, or made of pure light. Almost universally, users report that these beings seem to possess independent agency, their own purpose, and real intelligence. In fact, they often seem to be actively expecting the visitor. But wait, it gets even more mind-bending. The text proposes this idea of a permanent presence, meaning these entities aren't summoned by the molecule, they are just revealed by it. So an alien civilization might literally be in your living room right now, existing at a frequency you just can't perceive, wondering why there's a weird ape sitting on a couch staring at a glowing rectangle. And honestly, a lot of independent accounts from totally different cultures claim you can actually sense this hidden frequency bleeding through into our reality. The report lists physical signals people experience, like a distinct, high-pitched ringing in the ear, a sudden tingling at the crown of the head or down the spine, localized temperature changes, or just an unexplainable warm feeling of being watched. Moving right along to part 3, ancient wisdom and endogenous biology. Let's look at how this builds through history, because this modern discovery is really just a rediscovery of what our ancestors already intimately understood. The archaeological evidence is pretty undeniable here. From ancient burial sites in the Andes around 3000 BCE to Mesoamerican temples, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and the mysteries of ancient Greece, humans have been systematically accessing this exact same spirit world for millennia. Now, we established earlier that the enzymes to create this stuff are inside you right now. But the million-dollar question is, when and why does your body actively produce this consciousness-altering molecule all on its own? While the biological facts are absolutely stunning. Get this, a 2019 study confirmed massive DMT production in rat brains during cardiac arrest. This has actually led researchers to suggest that our suspiciously quiet pineal gland might orchestrate a massive chemical release at the exact moment of death, or potentially even during deep REM sleep. The biological machinery is built into us for a reason.
All right, let's dive into part 4, the dimensional overlap theory.
This is where we start bridging biology and physics to propose that the spirit world, or heaven, isn't somewhere way up above us, but right here. The model suggests that dimensions are superimposed. So rather than being stacked on top of each other like floors in a building, alternate realities might be occupying the exact same physical space, just operating at a base frequency our biological hardware can't currently receive. It's exactly like a radio dial tuned to only one station. Fascinatingly enough, physics actually has a framework for this whole concept. Physicist Hugh Everett's many worlds interpretation mirrors mystical theology almost perfectly. Where quantum physics talks about parallel branches of the wave function and decoherence, mystical traditions talk about spirit worlds and the veil. This suggests that death might not be an end, but simply a permanent dimensional migration to a branch we only briefly visit during these altered states. Now, if this dimensional overlap is real, the source material points out that it is densely populated. It's universally categorized by contactees into 4 distinct tiers of permanent residents. Down at the base, we have the dead, often recognized and loving relatives. Right above them are non-human intelligences native to the space. Then, guardian beings acting as angels or guides. And finally, at the absolute peak, pure light entities that exude a godlike presence far beyond anything human language can describe.
Which brings us to our grand finale, part 5, where all these theories actually converge.
Think about it. When neuroscience, quantum physics, ancient shamanism, early Gnostic texts, and clinical near-death research literally all point to the exact same unseen reality from completely different angles, well, coincidence kind of stops being a scientifically viable explanation, right? They are all mapping the exact same territory. Now, we do need to stay completely neutral here because there are still some massive open questions. We definitely don't fully understand the precise neurological mechanism, the true nature of these entities, or the ethical implications of interdimensional travel, but admitting our ignorance isn't a failure at all. Honestly, it's the most exciting invitation for the next generation of explorers to figure out how our consciousness truly operates.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to consider this incredibly profound thought from Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. If this filter is real, and these dimensions are simply overlapping frequencies of reality, ask yourself, what if the veil is thinner than you ever imagined? Thanks for exploring this with me today, and keep asking questions.